Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And today I've got with me TJ Walker. And TJ and I are going to talk about clones, how or why you need one, how to build one. And I'm just going to say before I introduce TJ, this is the real TJ. It's not his clone. We will going to get into that in more detail. TJ, where can people find you?
tjwalker.ai is the easiest place to find me. That's where my clone is. That's where my book on how to create your own clone is. That's where my course on how to create your own clone is. So just go to tjwalker.ai. And if you can't remember that, just type in TJ Walker and it will pop up on your first screen as well.
If you Google TJ Walker, you'll find him.
Yeah, certainly if you Google TJ Walker AI, it will pop up.
Yeah. And I highly recommend anybody who's watching this to go to tjwalker.ai because you will be looking at the future.
Thank you.
It is just so fascinating. We have another podcast which we've interviewed TJ, and I wanted to get him on here because I wanted to get the Tim Talk audience to listen to this, because this idea of clones and clones for good is such a fascinating idea. So TJ, first question I wanted to ask you was, what inspired you to build a clone?
Well, I've been in the training business for literally 40 years. I started in 1980, and the traditional training was me with a camera going to a client one-on-one or a small group. I video record them, play it back, critique them. We do that a dozen times in a day. Could be a president, a prime minister, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, a Miss Universe, you name it. And always the results were the same. Dramatic transformation, huge improvement. They perceived great value. And it was a fascinating, wonderful experience for everyone. They paid me a lot. They got a lot of value. The downside of that model is 99.9% of the world can't do it. It's very expensive. I have to travel to them. They have to travel to me. It's a lot of money. And then in 1998, I started online training, video-based training. And over time, that became successful. I have 12 million online student enrollments. So it's great in that it's scalable and people can do it all over the world anytime. There's no travel. It's very inexpensive. The problem is it's not that interactive. Someone has to sort of sit back and listen to old TJ, lecture and pontificate. It's good content, but it doesn't have that interactivity where someone can practice on camera and get immediate feedback. So when I heard of the idea of a clone, I thought, this is it. This is the perfect marriage. It really brings the best of the completely interactive in-person stuff that I know has generated great results for people. And it's got the scalability of the online videos without it being a one-to-many and a boring, passive situation, which the online courses can be. So that's what drew me into the world of clones and why I created one about 6 months ago, because the clone can actually critique the background. If I'm wearing sunglasses for an interview, it'll say, why are you wearing sunglasses? It will actually simulate an interview. So to me, the least interesting part is the clone simply answering questions. It can actually engage you and do simulations. And that's where people get the maximum improvement and transformation, whether it's a communication skill or a personal development skill.
And one of the things that I love about it, TJ, is the fact that I've talked to you now, I don't know, I've spent 3-4 hours with you, and I know how you speak and I know your mannerisms. And when you talk to the clone, it's not like I'm talking to a robot. It's like I'm talking to TJ. It's got your voice, it's got the way that you move your arms, the way your body language, all of those things.
Well, thanks. I mean, that took a lot of time and effort and a lot of different versions of recording video and different versions of simulating the voice. I mean, initially the voice was too flat. It was too monotone.
Right.
So I had to do some training audios where I overdid. I'd say, well, hello, and my name is TJ, and really overdo it just to get the bass level up higher so that it didn't sound flat or monotone. And things like the movement are important, because if you have great ideas but you look and sound like a complete frozen robot, that's not good. And the problem with a lot of clones is the people running the clone platforms don't know anything about media training and how to look your best. So they'll just give people the simplest advice, which is don't move. Well, if you don't move, you look frozen and stiff. The problem is if you do what a typical media trainer would do, or what I recommend for clients if they're going on live like this, move your hands, it doesn't work well for your clone, because your clone will be moving hands when someone is talking to them, and the clone is listening and doing this. And it looks ridiculous. So I had to do a lot of different tests, and I finally came up with something where my hands were moving, but I was framing it so that my hands didn't show.
Okay.
So my body moved, my shoulders moved a little, but it's very subdued. It's not normal hand gestures, but it's enough movement so that it doesn't look like a frozen, stiff robot, which was what I was going for.
So who needs a clone?
Well, nobody needs a clone, but everybody needs advice. Everybody needs a coach to help them solve some challenge, to learn some new skill in life. As far as I know, there's been no winner of Wimbledon in the last 80 years who didn't have a coach. There's no star World Cup soccer team that won that didn't have a coach. So everyone needs expertise and personalized feedback to reach the highest levels of whatever field they're in or profession. A clone is simply another tool. You know, it's like saying, who needs an online course? Well, no one needs an online course, but hundreds of millions of people a year take them because they think this is the best way for me to learn a new skill. I happen to think that at some point in the near future, and near could be 2 years, it could be 14 years, nobody's going to take an online course anymore. They're going to simply use an interactive digital video-based coach to walk them through their own acquisition of a skill right away. Because there's been a lot of research showing one-on-one tutoring, coaching, training always gets the best results. Now, it's typically been the most expensive. You know, if I'm a billionaire and I decide tomorrow I want to take up golf, presumably I could just hire Tiger Woods to come with me and go out on the golf course, and he could give me feedback on every swing, everything I do right or wrong. And we would just get together, you know, for 3 hours once a week for the next 5 years. It might cost me hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
It would, yeah.
That would be a good way of learning. With a clone, it's so much less expensive because I don't have to be there. Nobody has to travel to the other side of the world. And it allows expertise to be shared in a way that's interactive. That's what's different. So that's the problem with YouTube videos, my own online courses, is it's one to many. Someone watching a video of mine, whether it's a YouTube video or an online course, has to just listen to me what I want to talk about right now. With a clone, you can come right on to my clone and say, hey, TJ, I don't want to hear all your normal stuff. I've got an interview at 3:00 tomorrow with the CEO of DLA Ignite, and I really want to impress Tim. I'm nervous. What do I wear? How should I say this? And my clone will start giving you specific answers to help you for your situation. And it can say, okay, let's go ahead and do a rehearsal. I'll pretend to be Tim, and I'm going to interview you now. And it will interview it, record it. You can then watch that video. You can hear and watch the feedback from the clone as well. So that's really why it's needed. The other need is just time. Someone might need something, my expertise, at 3 a.m. I'm asleep. I can't help them. The clone doesn't sleep. Someone might need my expertise, but they only speak Mandarin or they only speak Hungarian. Well, I don't speak either language. My clone does speak 32 languages. It's my voice. It looks like me. It sounds like me. It's pulling from my knowledge base. It's not pulling from the internet or ChatGPT. It's pulling from my books, my online courses, giving you pretty much the same advice I would if I were there live with you. but it can do it in your language. So that's yet another reason why someone would need it, is they don't want to have to bend to me and do everything filtered through my language.
So I was going to ask you about personalization, and you kind of alluded to it in terms of you've needed to train it in certain ways. And I know that when we talked to you before, for example, if it doesn't know the answer, what you do is you actually get it to say, "I don't know the answer,"
Yeah.
rather than lying, and then you get an email. But
Right.
what you've done is that you've trained it using your blogs and your own content. So in effect, it's like OpenAI, which is it's used LLM technology, but you've trained it on your expertise.
Right. So that's the thing that people think, oh, this is just, pulling generic stuff from the internet. No. Anyone can build a clone these days. It's very inexpensive. There's some platforms that are free and some are $30 a month, but I'm instructing it to just pull answers from my content. Now, I happen to have a lot of content,
Yep.
half a dozen or more books, hundreds of online courses, thousands of YouTube videos. So I have about 13,000 files of my ideas that have been uploaded into the digital brain of my AI clone. And that's converted to about 15 million words. So when it's hearing you ask it a question, it's pulling from those 15 million words to give an answer that sounds like something I would have actually said in real life.
Yeah, yes, and I think that's important. What would you say were the challenges that you've had?
Well, the biggest challenge right now is getting people to look at this beyond a mere curiosity and, oh, isn't that interesting? A novelty, and getting people to transition from thinking it's cute or funny or a curiosity to, wow, I really want to use this. This is something I need. This is something I'm willing to pay for. I mean, it took me 15 years to get over that hump with online training because I started in 1998, didn't really start making real money till 2014, even 2017. And then it skyrocketed.
So it was interesting. So when we did this, we interviewed you on another podcast that we have, which is where myself and my team get on and interview you. And then and we hadn't realized about the potential. Following from that, I basically circulated the URL and said, "Go and have a look at this." And I spent the time and actually pressing, because you can have I can have a video call with you with your client. Actually pressing the button to say, "I want to have that video call with you," was like scary. And everybody that I've spoken to is like, and I say to everybody, you need to go and do this, because this is just, because I know that you spent a lot of time on it, and it is just such an amazing experience that you've got. And it's one of those things. I just think that the more people that look at it and remind us what the URL again is.
It's tjwalker.ai.
So everybody go to tjwalker.ai when we finish talking, obviously not right now, and have a video call with TJ and experience it, because I know what will happen is you will go and talk to somebody else and say, you need to look at this.
And by the way, if you don't have to do the video, it's available in audio. It has its own phone number. You can talk to it on WhatsApp. You can talk to it on Telegram. You could just text questions, and the answers back, again, are not generic. It's not generic from ChatGPT. It's as I would answer, although sometimes it's better because its memory is perfect. So I personally find the video the most interesting because I think that's the closest to what people value in real life. If Tim Cook said, "Hey, I want to talk to you tomorrow about a new job. It's $3 million a year. Can you be available for a Zoom call tomorrow, Tim?" You'd show up on Zoom with the camera on. You wouldn't say, "Well, Mr. Cook, I'm not comfortable on camera. I'll just phone in." You wouldn't do that. For really important communication, people either want to see you in real life or they want to see your face on a Zoom call or Office or Teams. So that's why I think the video is most important, because it's closest to what people already value. If you're paying an Accenture, some consulting firm, $100,000 a month, which a lot of big companies do, they expect it's either an in-person meeting or it's live face-to-face on Zoom. People pay the most for being able to look at a real person, either live, in person, or virtually. So that's why I think the video is important, but also for so many of the skills I teach people how to communicate, which involves body language. I have to practice what I preach. I have to model things for them. So that's why it's important.
So, what are the ethics and boundaries around this?
So if you're interested in that, I've got a whole, I think it's a 14-point ethics program that I'm trying to get spread across the industry. You'll see that I have an ethics alliance I've started at tjwalker.ai. The big ones are be upfront. My clone, as soon as you have the first conversation with us, says, "Hi, I'm TJ's clone." I'm not trying to trick people into thinking they're talking to a real human being. So whether you call it, whether you look at the video, it announces that. That's number one. Number two, don't lie. If you ask my clone, "Hey, TJ, I want to make money," my clone's not going to say, "Oh, I guarantee you, send me $5,000 today and you're going to get a 200% return on your investment every day for the next 5 years." Don't lie to people. That's a part of it. Protecting people's anonymity when they want that, and not just sharing their videos everywhere. We don't share our videos of conversations. I think that's important. And transparency is so important. And just saying, "I don't know." I mean, my clone is programmed literally. If you ask it a question I can't answer, the clone can't answer. It literally says, "Hey, you got me. I don't know the answer. Email the real TJ at producer@tjwalker.com." Rather than just make up something.
And you've given a for instance of that, saying if you ask the clone, "Are you available at 4:00 in the afternoon next Thursday?" The clone doesn't have access to your diary, so
Yeah.
and you obviously want to control that and talk.
And the clone is available. The clone's available 24 hours a day. But if they want to use the clone to schedule with me, this particular version of the clone isn't set up for that. Now, my understanding is a lot of other Zoom, other platforms, Microsoft, they are in the various stages of having your clone be able to be your virtual assistant that way and to be able to schedule things. That's not what mine is doing yet. I'm using mine primarily to be an instructor and a coach. I want it to be a coach so that I can help people just as if they had hired me for a live full day training or a couple hours session on Zoom. So that's the focus of my clone. Now, will it morph into something that can be a general assistant and cover for me all the time, anywhere, everywhere? Possibly. That'll be great. I'm trying to learn more about this every day. The more you get into this, the more there is. So, I mean, I search. I have Google alerts for every single story about digital clones, digital avatars, generative AI. The latest book on artificial intelligence was released, I think, 2 days ago by Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, and Henry Kissinger, who died, but was still writing books at age 100. And it was finished right before he died. So that's what I'm reading last night. So I'm trying to be all in, learn everything I can about this, listen to other people's podcasts like yours, and try to be on the cutting edge, because I do believe it is the most powerful transformational communications tool, certainly of the last 30 years, certainly since the internet was created, arguably since the creation of the printing press, because it's really the first communication tool that allows you to have completely interactive one-on-one style conversations with people in a completely scalable way, where you could have thousands, millions of conversations going on all at the same time, any time of day or night, and in any language. So that's why I think this is such a big deal. And for me, whether it takes off or pays any money now or 6 months or 2 years from now or even 5 years from now, I don't know, and I don't really care. I'm just convinced it's so big. At some point, I hope in my lifetime, it really becomes something that reaches its full potential and becomes dominant. I think we're going to live in a world where absolutely nobody, I'm not just talking about coaches and subject matter experts, but nobody who has a LinkedIn page today would even think of not having a clone at some point in the future.
You said
It'll be
before,
that obvious.
you said before that you see a clone now being part of the building blocks of a personal brand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you don't have to have one yet, but now's the perfect time to have one. You look at the people who were joining Twitter the first 6 months,
Yeah.
a lot of them, frankly, were nobodies, but by being early, by embracing that technology, many people have made many multi-million-dollar companies from it. Same with YouTube, the people who got in early and really learned it. I mean, I was on YouTube in the first 6 months, but I didn't spend the time it took to really do things regularly and build and iterate to get better. So, but I've done that with online training. That's been the one area where I really went the whole way. I think the same thing is going to happen for people who embrace clones and experiment with them and get them to the point where they really find their audience, because it is just such a better experience. Everyone thinks they're important, and to them they are. Everyone thinks their concern is the most important concern, and everyone traditionally is willing to pay more for one-on-one interaction. You might pay $20 for a book from a marriage counselor, but you might actually pay $300 an hour every week for 10 years, if it helps, if they're giving you one-on-one personalized attention.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so excited about this technology.
TJ, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about your video clone and how to build one. So remind people where they can help you.
Go to tjwalker.ai and test it out. It costs absolutely nothing. You can start asking it questions. You don't even have to provide an email or a name. You can be completely anonymous. So check it out today at tjwalker.ai.
And I highly recommend it as well. You also have a book which I've read, which I think is really good. Building an interactive AI video clone, unlocking the power of personalized communication. So if you're like me that actually likes reading books, but what TJ has done in that is put down all of his experience. And it's a great starter if you're thinking about doing a clone and you want to, he's put down the mistakes you can make and some things. It's a great book as a piece to read before you go ahead and actually start spending money on it.
Thanks. And it was co-written by my clone. Now, all the ideas were mine that came out of my mouth first, but I had my TJ Walker GPT, another AI tool, take the content from the transcripts from my lectures and then rewrite it into a book to make it more readable.
And TJ, it is, even though it's written by AI, it's still very readable. It is readable. And it's just like you read it and it sounds just like you're speaking it.
Well, thanks a lot. Check out the book, tjwalker.ai.
Yeah. So TJ, thank you so much for coming on today.